stop scrolling, because what I'm about to tell you will destroy a beautiful lie you've carried your entire life. You think being good keeps you safe, that kindness protects you, that honesty earns you respect, that playing fair will eventually pay off. But look around. The kind ones are the ones who burn out. The loyal ones are the first to be betrayed, and the honest ones, they're the ones who get replaced by the cunning, by the loud, by the ruthless. You've been told your goodness is your strength, but what if? That's exactly why people overlook you. What if the very thing that makes you good is the same thing that makes you powerless? Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He watched kind rulers destroyed by their mercy, honest men exiled for their truth, and good hearts crushed under the boots of ambition. And he realized something the world still refuses to admit. Goodness without strategy is a slow form of self-destruction. You know it, don't you? That quiet voice inside you. The one that whispers every time you stay silent, just to keep the peace. They don't respect you. They just know you won't fight back, and yet you keep doing it. You keep giving more, forgiving faster, smiling wider, hoping the world will one day reward your kindness. But here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't reward purity. It rewards precision. It doesn't admire sacrifice. It admires strategy. And if you don't learn how to use your goodness like a weapon, someone else will use it as a leash. So tonight, I'm not here to teach you how to be cruel. I'm here to show you what Machiavelli meant when he said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Because being feared doesn't mean being a monster. It means being respected enough that no one dares to use your heart against you. This is not a lesson about becoming darker, it's a lesson about becoming sharper. And by the time we're done, you'll never look at being good the same way again. Part 1. Kindness doesn't earn you respect, it gets you used. Let's make something clear. The problem isn't that you're good. The problem is that you don't know how to protect your goodness. You walk through life believing that people play by the same rules you do. That loyalty earns loyalty. That honesty invites honesty. That if you're kind to others, they'll be kind in return. But they won't, because most people aren't like you. They don't value kindness. They calculate it. They watch how far you'll go before you break, and once they know your limits, they never stop pushing. They say they admire your heart, but what they really admire is how easy it is to take from you. You call it empathy, they call it opportunity. You think you're leading with love. They see a door left wide open. Machiavelli warned about this. He said that men are ungrateful, fickle, and deceitful. That when danger comes, they abandon the good man first. Because the good man is safe to betray. And isn't that exactly what keeps happening? You give, and they forget. You stay silent to keep the peace, and they grow bolder. You sacrifice to prove your worth, and they only expect more. It's not that they hate you. It's that you've trained them to believe you'll never fight back. You've become predictable, and predictable people aren't respected. They're used. Here's the paradox. Kindness without strength behind it doesn't inspire loyalty. It invites consumption. People don't protect what they can easily replace. And when you never say no, you teach them that your yes has no value. Think about it. Would you respect someone who can't stand up for themselves? Would you follow someone who apologizes for existing? Neither would they. That's why Machiavelli taught rulers to show mercy, only when it served a purpose. He understood the cruel truth about human nature. People follow strength first, then justify it as morality later. But here's the part no one tells you. You don't have to abandon kindness to become strong. You have to discipline it. Turn your compassion into strategy, your empathy into intelligence, your silence into power. Because when your goodness has boundaries, it becomes magnetic. When your kindness carries weight, it commands respect. You don't need to scream. You don't need to threaten. You just need to let the world feel that you could walk away at any moment. That's when they start paying attention. That's when your no becomes sacred. That's when your kindness stops being a weakness and becomes a weapon. Part 2. The price of being loved. You don't just want to be liked. You crave it. Not because you're weak, but because you were taught that being loved is proof you're enough. Since childhood, you learned that approval means survival, that fitting in keeps you safe, that being a good person earns you a place in people's hearts. So you learned to smooth your edges, to smile when you wanted to scream, to shrink yourself just enough so no one would call you too much. And with every compromise, a piece of you disappeared. You became the peacekeeper, the fixer, the man who apologizes just to end the argument, the woman who gives and gives until there's nothing left. You tell yourself it's kindness, but deep down you know it's fear, fear of being rejected, fear of being misunderstood, fear that if you stop being good, no one will choose you. And that's the invisible cost of needing to be liked. You stop being real. You become a reflection of what everyone else wants to see. Polished, harmless, predictable. Machiavelli would have called that a tragedy. He wrote that the one who builds his power on the love of others builds on sand. Because love is fickle, it shifts with emotion, with convenience, with opportunity. And yet that's what most people chase, to be loved, accepted, understood. They mistake visibility for value. But being seen isn't the same as being respected, and being loved isn't the same as being safe. Look at your own life. How many times did you silence yourself just to stay liked? How many times did you say yes when your whole body screamed no? And how many times did those same people disappear when you finally needed them? The truth is harsh, but liberating. People don't fall in love with who you are. They fall in love with what they can take from you. And when you stop giving, their love fades, so stop begging for approval. Stop chasing affection like a starving dog waiting for scraps. Because every time you do, you hand over the leash. Machiavelli didn't tell you to stop being human. He told you to stop being owned. Real power doesn't come from being adored. It comes from being remembered. Not because you were nice, but because your presence had weight. And when you finally stop needing to be liked, a strange thing happens. People start respecting you. They listen differently. They measure their words. They wonder what changed. But it wasn't them, it was you. You stopped performing goodness and started embodying it. Because the moment you no longer fear losing love, you become untouchable. Part 3. The world rewards strategists, not saints. You were taught to believe that the world is fair, that goodness will be noticed, that patience will be rewarded, that if you just keep doing the right thing long enough, destiny will recognize you. But destiny doesn't have eyes, and the world doesn't keep score. It rewards leverage, not virtue. Look closely. The ruthless rise, not because they're cruel, but because they understand timing. They know when to act, when to disappear, when to speak. and when to stay silent. They know that power isn't in doing everything right. It's in doing the right thing strategically. Meanwhile, the moral ones wait. They wait for fairness. They wait for recognition. They wait for karma. But the world isn't moved by sincerity, it's moved by perception. Machiavelli saw this with frightening clarity. He wrote that a ruler doesn't need to possess all the virtues. He only needs to appear as if he does. Because perception creates belief, and belief controls reality. That's why the competent are ignored, while the confident are crowned. Why the quiet thinkers are overlooked, while the loud pretenders are promoted. It's not fair, but it's predictable. And once you understand the pattern, you can stop playing the victim and start playing the architect. When you finally realize that morality doesn't guarantee power, something inside you shifts. You stop chasing approval and start engineering presence. You walk into a room differently. You don't explain yourself anymore. You don't chase conversations. You let silence do the heavy lifting. You don't seek validation. You command it. Because power isn't about domination. It's about direction. The world bends to the one who moves with intent, and this is where most good people fail. They think showing effort equals value. But effort doesn't impress anyone anymore. Control does. Control of emotion, control of timing, control of energy. You can be honest, but still choose when to reveal the truth. You can be kind, but still decide who deserves your kindness. You can be loyal, but never to the point where loyalty costs you your crown. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. You see, Machiavelli never said, "Be evil," he said, "Be effective," because history doesn't remember intentions, it remembers outcomes. So here's the question you need to ask yourself now. Will you keep trying to be pure in a world that only respects power? Or will you learn to be powerful enough to protect what's pure? The saints waited for justice. The strategists built it. Be the latter. Part 4. The power of image. You are what they see. Let me ask you something. When you walk into a room, what do people feel? Not what they think, what they feel. Because long before they hear your words, before they know your story, before they even learn your name, they've already decided who you are. And here's the cruel part. They're rarely wrong, not because they see your truth, but because they believe their illusion faster than you can reveal your reality. That's the power of image. The world doesn't meet your soul. It meets your silhouette, your posture, your tone, the weight in your silence. You could be the wisest person alive. But if your presence trembles, they'll treat you like a servant. You could have the purest heart, but if your voice hesitates, they'll think your words carry no weight. And if you walk without command, you'll spend your life convincing people you're worth following. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are." He wasn't glorifying deception. He was describing survival. Because perception is reality until proven otherwise. So when the world refuses to look deeper, you must learn to control the surface, to design your reflection before they do it for you. The kings of history knew this. They built thrones not for comfort, but for illusion. They wore crowns not to feel holy, but to remind others who was untouchable. Power, at its core, is theater, not lies presentation. And the most dangerous mistake you can make is believing that your good heart speaks for itself. It doesn't. It whispers. And the world only listens to those who project. So stand straighter, speak slower, move with intent. Let silence fill the air before you answer, because when your presence carries gravity, your words don't need volume. People don't follow those they understand. They follow those they feel compelled to respect. Remember this. If you don't define your image, the world will define it for you, and it will always define you smaller than you are. So no, you don't need to fake anything. You need to frame it, to shape how the world perceives your truth, to craft an aura that demands attention before you even speak. Because in a world where perception is currency, your presence is your wealth. Machiavelli didn't teach vanity, he taught visibility. He taught that in the kingdom of appearances, the invisible man starves. So be deliberate with how you move, be intentional with what you reveal, and let mystery guard your power like armor, because in the end, you are not who you think you are. You are what the world believes you to be. And the one who controls that belief controls everything. Part 5. Strategic Silence. The art of saying nothing and gaining everything. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and the strongest person in the room isn't the one who speaks the most. It's the one who doesn't need to. You see, every word you say is a doorway into your mind. Every opinion, every confession, every defense, they all tell people how to reach you, how to control you. The moment you rush to explain yourself, you give away your map. And in a world full of predators, maps are death. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince must know how to conceal his intentions." Not because deceit is noble, but because transparency in the wrong hands is suicide. People believe that honesty earns trust. It doesn't. It earns vulnerability, and vulnerability, without awareness, invites exploitation. Think about how many times you've talked too much, trying to prove your sincerity, only to be misunderstood, or worse, used. You explained your reasons, they twisted your words. You opened your heart, they memorized your weaknesses. You wanted peace, and they learned exactly how to break it. That's not connection, that's exposure. And exposure is how good men lose their leverage. Machiavelli understood that silence is not absence. It's a signal that forces others to fill the void with their own assumptions, and that uncertainty gives you control. Because when people don't know what you think, they start guessing. And when they start guessing, they start hesitating. Their hesitation is your protection, their curiosity, your advantage. Silence is a psychological weapon. It creates space, and in that space, people reveal themselves. They rush to speak, to fill the emptiness, to win back the comfort you took away by saying nothing. Every great strategist understands this. The one who speaks least is the one most feared. Because words make you common, but silence makes you unpredictable. And the unpredictable cannot be controlled. So don't rush to fill every pause. Let it breathe, let it sting. Let your stillness remind them that not everything about you is available. Because mystery is a currency, and the less you give, the more valuable you become. You don't owe the world your thoughts. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You owe yourself discipline, the kind that protects your peace and multiplies your power. Machiavelli wasn't warning you against speaking. He was teaching you when to speak, and when to let the air itself carry your message. So the next time someone demands your truth, pause. Look at them, smile, if you must, and remember, the silence that follows a question is sometimes the loudest answer of all. Part 6. The Power of Unpredictability. Predictability is the death of power, because once people know how you'll react, They can make you dance without ever touching you. They know what to say to make you angry. They know how to guilt you into helping. They know which silence breaks you first, and the moment you become predictable, you become manageable. Machiavelli saw this in every fallen ruler. Men who were loved for their consistency, but destroyed for their transparency. He wrote, "A prince who is always predictable soon finds himself ruled by those who study him." Think about that. The ones who watched him long enough, the advisors, the allies, the lovers, they all learned his rhythm. And once they learned his rhythm, they learned how to break him. The same happens to you. Every emotional pattern you repeat becomes a map for someone else's manipulation. Every apology you offer too quickly, every argument you handle the same way, every kindness you give without question, it all becomes data. And people use that data. You call it love. They call it strategy. You think you're building connection. They're building control. That's why unpredictability is a weapon, not chaos, but control through uncertainty. When people don't know what you'll do next, they can't prepare. They can't manipulate. They can't dominate. Unpredictability keeps them alert, and that alertness becomes respect. It's the quiet reminder that you are not safe to play with, that you can forgive or vanish, you can listen or strike, you can be gentle or disappear into silence. That's why the most dangerous kind of strength is the calm one, the kind that doesn't show its next move. Because people don't fear aggression, they fear ambiguity, the kind that keeps them guessing, the kind that makes them hesitate before they cross you. You've felt this before. That moment when someone looks at you and you can't read them. Your mind races, your heart adjusts, you become careful. That's the power you're about to reclaim. Machiavelli never said to be cruel. He said to be unreadable. Because mystery is leverage, and leverage is survival. So stop giving the world a manual on how to reach you. Stop advertising your patterns. Stop announcing your next move. Let them wonder if your silence means peace or preparation. Let them question if your kindness hides a limit. Let them guess whether you're watching or waiting. Because in that uncertainty, you become untouchable. And when people can't predict you, they start respecting you. They tread lightly. They measure their words. They second-guess their assumptions. That's not intimidation. That's equilibrium. Unpredictability keeps the balance of power in your hands. It turns every encounter into a quiet negotiation on your terms. So from now on, move like water, speak like thunder, and let them never again know what storm hides behind your silence. Part 7. Strategic distance. How absence creates respect. We were raised to believe that closeness builds connection. That the more available you are, the more people will love you. The more you give, the more you'll be valued. But Machiavelli knew better. He warned that familiarity breeds contempt, because what is always within reach is never seen as rare. Respect isn't built when you're constantly present. It's built when your absence is felt. Think about it. You text first. You show up first. You fix things first. And at some point, your presence stops being appreciated. It becomes expected, and everything that becomes expected eventually becomes invisible. The world doesn't cherish abundance. It worships scarcity. A voice that's always speaking fades into background noise. A helping hand that's always there becomes a tool, not a treasure. A heart that's always available stops being respected because it's never missed. You've been told that loyalty means staying, But true loyalty from others is only born when your absence can be felt. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology gave it a name. He saw that power depends on perceived value, and perceived value rises when access decreases. That's why kings rarely walked among their people. That's why leaders limit their words. That's why even silence can echo louder than speech. Because when you are not everywhere, everywhere starts looking for you. So the next time you feel the urge to explain, to defend, to show up again just to prove you care, don't. Withdraw. Disappear just enough for your presence to mature into meaning. Let people taste your absence. Let them sit in the silence you leave behind, because in that silence, they remember your worth. They realize what they took for granted. They reevaluate the power you carried quietly all along. This isn't arrogance, it's design. Absence is the sculptor of reverence. Think of the moon. It doesn't beg for attention, it simply withdraws, and the night misses it. That's how you create respect that lasts. By refusing to be overexposed, by protecting your time like sacred territory, by appearing only when your presence means something. Because every time you show up out of fear of being forgotten, you teach the world that your presence is cheap. And cheap presence will never command high respect. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't in cruelty, it was in rhythm, the rhythm of appearing and vanishing with purpose. That's what made kings look divine, and what makes modern men look unshakable. So be deliberate with your distance. Disappear when they expect you most. Return when they least deserve it. Let your silence create curiosity. Let your distance breed gravity. Because when your absence has power, your presence becomes unforgettable. Part 8. Emotional control. The calm mind rules the storm. Power isn't measured by how loud you speak. It's measured by how little the world can shake you. Most people believe that emotion is truth. They think that if they feel it, it must be real. But emotion is the easiest way to lose control. And once you lose control, you lose the game. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He wrote that a ruler must act, not react, because reaction is a leash, and the one who pulls it owns you. Think about it. How many times have you given your power away, not by force, but by feeling too much? You were provoked, and you exploded. You were insulted, and you defended yourself. You were challenged, and you needed to prove something. And in every one of those moments, someone else controlled the rhythm of your soul. They didn't need to attack you, they just needed to make you react. Because the man who cannot stay calm is a man who can be commanded. Your anger, your fear, your pride, they are not proof of passion. They are proof of exposure. Every outburst reveals your trigger points. Every emotional spike shows where your armor is thin. And those who seek power, they're always watching. Machiavelli would have told you this. To rule others, you must first rule yourself. That's not philosophy. That's survival. The calm mind is not emotionless. It's precise. It doesn't drown in feelings. It directs them, like currents in the sea. When others rage, it observes. When others panic, it calculates. When others demand an answer, it gives silence and lets them drown in their own noise. That is true dominance, the quiet that unnerves, the stillness that commands, the presence that says, I am in control, because people mistake loudness for strength, but the most powerful ones, the truly dangerous ones, speak softly, move slowly, and decide late. They are not carried by emotion. They carry emotion like a weapon, unsheathed only when necessary. You've felt this kind of presence before. The person who doesn't flinch under pressure, who doesn't explain, who doesn't rush, and somehow the whole room bends around their calm. That's not magic. That's discipline, the art of inner silence, the mastery of not reacting when the world tries to provoke. Because chaos is always hungry, it feeds on attention, on outrage, on reaction. Starve it, and it dies. The calm mind is a storm contained, a weapon hidden in serenity. It doesn't chase control. It is control. And once you learn to stay sent while others tremble, you'll notice something extraordinary. People start orbiting around your calm. They trust you more. They fear you more. They need your stability to survive their own storm. That's when you stop being human in their eyes. You become gravity, so the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Let their chaos crash against your silence, because nothing is more terrifying to a manipulator than the one who refuses to dance. Machiavelli's wisdom was never about cruelty. It was about control, and the one who controls emotion controls perception, and the one who controls perception controls the world. Part 9. Strategic Patience. The art of striking only once, but perfectly. The impatient man burns his victories before he earns them. He rushes to speak, to prove, to move, believing speed is strength. But Machiavelli knew better. He wrote, "Fortune favors the man who knows when to wait." Because timing is power, and every act done too soon is indistinguishable from weakness. The world today worships urgency. Move fast, they say. React first, post first, decide now. But urgency is just panic wearing confidence. Real strength waits, it studies, it watches. It allows chaos to reveal its own pattern. You see, the hunter who fires first usually misses. But the one who waits, the one who listens to the forest breathe, never wastes a single arrow. Strategic patience is not passivity, it's controlled stillness. The space between knowing and acting, the pause that makes your next move inevitable. Machiavelli observed this in rulers and generals alike. The reckless ones charged first and died forgotten. The patient ones, they struck once and rewrote history, because the man who can wait controls everyone who can't. He lets the others exhaust themselves with movement. He lets their desperation expose their flaws. And when they are tired, when their guard is down, when silence has turned their own thoughts against them, that's when he moves. One strike, one sentence, one decision, and the game changes forever. That's what power really is, precision, not volume. The art of letting others destroy themselves while you prepare quietly for your moment. So let them laugh, let them underestimate you, let them believe your silence means surrender. Because when your time comes, when the conditions align, your smallest gesture will echo louder than all their noise combined. Machiavelli understood that life is not a race, it's a siege. And in every siege, the one who breaks first loses everything. Patience is psychological warfare. It's not about waiting for the world. It's about watching it reveal itself to you. Most men move when they feel pressure, but the wise man moves when he chooses. And in that choice, he becomes unstoppable. There's a beauty in restraint. It's the elegance of knowing that you could act, but choose not to, that you could speak, but hold the silence a little longer, that you could fight, but wait until victory is certain. That's not weakness, that's strategy, that's control. Machiavelli called this mastery of tempo. He saw that every life, every kingdom, every war is decided not by force, but by timing. And when you finally act, After the long silence, after the observation, after the patience that others called hesitation, your action becomes divine. Because it lands exactly where it should, exactly when it must. That is the art of striking only once, but perfectly. So from this day forward, refuse to be rushed, refuse to react, refuse to prove yourself to people who mistake noise for movement. You are not in a hurry, you are in command. The man who waits is not idle. He is sharpening his blade in the dark, and when the time comes, the world will never see it coming. You were never too kind. You were never too loyal. You were never too honest. You were simply untrained. The world taught you to equate goodness with safety. It lied to you. It told you that virtue would protect you, that kindness would attract loyalty, that patience would earn respect. But Machiavelli knew the truth. Goodness without strategy is suicide disguised as purity. That's why you've been exhausted. That's why you've been betrayed. That's why every time you gave everything, you were left with nothing. You weren't weak. You were sincere in a world that rewards calculation. You were open in a world that worships mystery. You were transparent in a world that thrives on illusion. But now, you've seen the map. You've read the codes beneath human nature. You understand that kindness must have structure, that love must have limits, that silence must have sharpness, that patience must have purpose. You are no longer the prey. You are the observer, the strategist, the one who smiles, not to please, but to calculate. The one who forgives, not because he's weak, but because he's already moved 3 steps ahead. You are not here to impress anyone. You are here to master yourself, because Machiavelli never worshipped cruelty. He worshipped control, and control begins when you stop apologizing for being different from the naive majority. From now on, your goodness is a blade, polished, hidden, precise. You won't offer it freely. You'll use it intentionally, and when you act, it will be clean, measured, final. That is the evolution of goodness. Not to destroy what makes you human, but to guard it. To make sure your light can survive the dark. So look at your life right now. Every boundary you didn't set, every yes you regret, every silence that cost you your peace, those were not failures. They were training. Every betrayal sharpened you. Every rejection purified you. Every disappointment was a lesson written in fire. You are not the same person who started this journey. You're colder now, quieter, more deliberate. But that's not loss, that's transformation. Because warmth without edges is weakness, and now your warmth has form, it has weight, it has rules. Machiavelli would have smiled at this version of you. He would have said, "You finally understand. Mercy and power can share the same heart." And that's the point. You don't need to stop being good. You just need to stop being predictable. Stop being accessible. Stop being afraid to let silence do your speaking. Because the moment you combine virtue with vision, kindness with calculation, empathy with edge, you become something the world cannot exploit. You become untouchable. So let this be your declaration. From this day forward, my goodness serves me. It no longer betrays me. You don't owe the world your softness. You owe it your strategy. You owe it your presence. When it matters, and your absence when it teaches. Now breathe slowly, deeply. You've just crossed the line between being good and being wise, and when wisdom wears kindness like armor, even the wolves bow. If this message woke something ancient inside you, don't just nod and scroll away. Share it. Comment below with one truth you've finally accepted. Because this isn't just a video, it's the moment you stopped surviving and started commanding.